Okay, hey, today is going to be day one or kind of introduction to uh, our ecology unit of class here. So, our ecology unit of biology is going to be focusing on, think of it like a study of the environment. All right, it's one of my favorite units to talk about because it has such a wide range of topics and um, different things that we might study, tons of different changing variables and resources, and really for something that humans have been studying since the dawn of man, it's still something that we don't know a ton about as we're trying to figure things out. So, we're going to do kind of an introduction to some ecological terms relating to organization today, and we'll call that good. So, starting off with ecology, we have five different levels. Remember, in science, we like to organize things. We like to put things in a proper place and category. The same is true with ecology. First level, or the most specific, would be organism. So here we got a picture of a singular organism, that is a singular great white shark. The next size up is a population. There's a population of bison. The size after that, one bigger still, is a community. Next size up from there is an ecosystem. And the last size and biggest size that we have right now is a biosphere. All right, I went through those five kind of fast. I'm actually going to have a slide on each of those coming up next here. So, starting with our most specific, and that would be an organism. So, that would be most basic ecological level, and it's going to involve one single individual. Things that we're going to look at here with organisms. I have evolution on here. That's actually wrong, but I've kept it so that we can talk about why that's wrong. Singular organisms don't evolve. Okay, you and I are not evolving. Our genes are our genes. Populations evolve. So the human species is changing over time, but us as an individual, we are not individually evolving. So wanted to make sure that I threw that in there. We'll look a little bit at behavioral ecology and then some singular organism anatomy and physiology. Goal is to get some of this stuff by the end of the course. Obviously, in this online format, that won't be as hands-on as maybe some other formats, but we'll still try to get into just a little bit of anatomy at the end. So when we have a group of organisms, we call a group of organisms a population. Okay, so a population is a group of individuals of the same species living together. We always think of this as the human population. For example, the human population of the United States is, 325 million ish, somewhere in there. But there's also a population of bison, of wolves, of oak trees, of dandelions, of E. coli. Populations can be any species, but it is a group of individuals of the same species living together. That's going to be important. It has to be the same species. Potential studies. Here we'll talk a little bit about evolution in a later section in the course. We'll talk about herd behaviors and then different factors that can affect population size. We're also going to be looking at a variety of population graphs and how we can study those things. There will be a case study that we check out, one of the more famous ecological case studies, and that's about the Yellowstone wolf population that's been going on for the last several decades here. Next size up from a population, when we have a group of populations living together, we call that a community. Okay, so a community is a group of populations of different species living within an area. So there's a community within, the coniferous forest. There's a community within the temperate grasslands. So different organisms living together. If you think about it, maybe like a food web is a good way to think of that, just how all these different things are interacting with each other. We'll look at some of that predation, some of that competition and mutualism throughout the unit. Like I said, with some food web type things as well. Here's a look at one of the most famous communities on Earth. That is the Serengeti in parts of Tanzania and Kenya. That's the largest or the biggest gathering of large mammals on Earth. where there's giraffes and zebras and gazelle and lions and wildebeest and elephants and all sorts of things over there. So that is a community. One size up from there, we have all the living factors. When we add in the non-living factors, now we're talking about the entire ecosystem. So pictures below, I have, oh, that's the Denali ecosystem up in Alaska. Um, we can look at all the organisms and how they interact. But then once we start looking at things like climate and moisture and acidity of the soil and rocky outcrops and water quality, now we're talking about the entire ecosystem. Okay, so the big thing is it's going to include non-living factors. Things we're going to look at here, we'll be looking at how energy flows through ecosystems, as well as how chemicals get recycled with carbon and nitrogen, maybe a little phosphorus and water, those kind of things. And then lastly, we have the biosphere. When we add up all the ecosystems, we get a biosphere. So far, we only know of one. That's Earth. We haven't looked very far yet, but we have one biosphere. Um, and we'll talk a little bit about how this plays into an effect. Different ecosystems can play roles in other ecosystems, etc. There. So starting off simple with 5 major levels of ecological organization.